Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Health Made Super Show. I'm your host, Dr. Bart, and I am fresh off a trip up to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I was able to present, teach, call it what you will, to an amazing group of men and women up there, practitioners of all types, chiropractors, acupuncturists, nurse practitioners, nurses. I don't know if we had any medical doctors this time. Anyways, a great group of men and women up there who were all in. Listen, they're there just to learn, which again, if any of you are listening, hats off to you. I had as good a time in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, as I've had anywhere along this journey of kind of doing what I call my speaking tour. So I'm up there teaching about gut health and adrenal health. And today we're going to do a deep dive into the top 10 symptoms to find out if you have adrenal dysfunction or adrenal fatigue. So this is a topic that across the board, I think is probably not given enough credence. And unfortunately, a lot of times it goes underdiagnosed, misdiagnosed, and probably not even diagnosed at all for many people. And as a result of it, very difficult journey to get healthy. I'll go into those details in just a moment. You'll have a very good understanding whether or not maybe you are experiencing some dysfunction with your adrenal glands and what you can or cannot do about those. I will tell you this, though. It is rarely the primary cause of your overall ill health. If you have challenges going on, it is rarely the primary cause. But if it is, and it's often secondary, and if it is part of the overall issue, it has to be dealt as if it's a primary, meaning this. Let's just say you're dealing with gut health. We happen to be talking about that. Or you're dealing with hormone imbalances, whatever it may be. You're dealing with immune dysfunction and you have adrenal dysfunction. Getting well in those other categories without correcting, without enhancing the overall function of your adrenal glands, going to be very difficult. And this is why we see so many chronic conditions out there, because people have very dysfunctional adrenal glands, meaning they essentially can't support what's going on with you in your life. All right. So I'm going to kind of give a quick understanding of what your adrenal glands do, and then we'll dive into the different symptoms. So your adrenal glands, essentially, they produce many hormones. They help produce things like testosterone and estrogen and progesterone, DHEA, and their primary is something called cortisol. This is your stress hormone. Cortisol gets a little bit of a bad rap in the sense that we think that it's bad. It's not necessarily bad. It's actually in small doses. It's an anti-inflammatory for the body. It gives us a boost of energy. It literally is when we have fight or flight situations, it is your adrenal glands producing and releasing this cortisol. That is what makes you be able to get up and go. That's what creates that laser focus is your cortisol. Your stress hormone is what gives you that super focus in the moment. The challenge is we're often running around using cortisol on a regular basis. So we'll roll through the top 10 symptoms. And in these, I'll navigate some teachings that you'll understand more and more about the adrenal glands and the role that they play in our lives. And it's a big role. I'm also going to make sure that you have a protocol that it can be very simple to do this. It's not a take one thing and it goes away. It is supporting your adrenal glands over time. So I won't do too much just for time constraints into lifestyle, but the symptoms today, a protocol, and then even some ways you can test it. And in my background, if you do hear some of my dogs going crazy, that's because my dogs are going crazy. All right, with that being said, let's dive in here. Top 10 symptoms. I'm probably going to give you a little bit more than that, but top 10 symptoms of adrenal dysfunction. And I start with this. Fatigue in the morning, especially after sleeping. You're still tired when you wake up. Folks, that's not okay. And it's not going to go away with just more sleep. So if you're tired when you wake up in the morning, and the other part of that is midday tiredness. So if those two things there, that's one of the signs or symptoms. I'm going to keep rolling here. Number 2 is this. You have salt and or sugar cravings. So one of the reasons that you're tired in the morning is because you didn't have the ability to produce enough cortisol. So cortisol essentially it's a hormone that follows the sun. It should be super high first thing we wake up in the morning. And if that cortisol, if your gland is no longer producing at the level that you need, unfortunately, you're not going to wake up and have the energy that you want. So we need cortisol first thing in the morning. So if you wake up and you are literally dragging yourself to the coffee pot, often that's indicative that your adrenal glands are not producing enough cortisol. And you can test these. It's an at-home saliva test. I'll make sure that you can. We'll put a link in the notes below that you can if you want to test them, it's very simple. It's an at-home test, a functional medicine test. You spit in a vial 5 times throughout the course of the day. You get a result back. It's very simple to read. You find out whether or not you're producing enough cortisol, and then also how it is being distributed through the course of the day. It can either be dysfunctional or underfunctioning. All right, so number one, are you tired when first thing in the morning when you wake up? Number two is, do you have salt and sugar cravings? The reason that we crave salt and sugar is simply because your body's out of energy. You don't have a pep to your step, so your body's looking for more sugar to create instant sources of energy. The salt thing is really because your body needs that. It needs sodium. It needs, and when your body's under constant duress, constant stress, frankly, you will then leach out and use up and over deplete your body of sodium. So you crave salt. Folks, this is a key one. This is one over the years. I hear so many people clinically say, I don't have a sweet tooth, but man, I crave my salt. And that just gives us a little bit of a red flag right there. All right, number three, your immune system is no longer functioning at its best. When you get sick, you stay sick longer, and then often you get sick more frequently. And it's not just because you're taking more plane rides. It's not just because there's more kids around you. Listen, our bodies are incredibly strong. If you're getting sick more frequently for you, it's another sign that your immune system, which is something that is often regulated, that is in part regulated by your adrenal glands. So I'll back up here a little about your adrenal glands. Here's what's wild. Your adrenal glands help regulate blood pressure. They help regulate fluid in your body. Like if your ankles get swollen, that's part of that is regulated through your adrenal glands. They regulate your immune system. They regulate your blood pressure. So there's many things in there. Your metabolism is highly regulated by your adrenal glands. So many things boil back down to these adrenal glands. And although, again, like I said earlier, it is really the primary cause of your health woes, but often, if it is in the background, it must be dealt with. Otherwise, the road ahead can be a long one. All right, number 4, moving on here. Inability to make decisions quickly. This is often overlooked as well. The reason this happens is because your fight or flight hormones, your ability to be able to adapt to stress is being diminished. And decisions are a level of stress. So if you find yourself nowadays just having a harder and harder time making decisions, because making a decision is a microcosm of stress. That is a small thing that can be stressful. So if you're having a harder and harder time, it's letting you know that unfortunately your ability to handle stressors is starting to diminish. Number 5, difficult to handle stress. Specifically, emotionally exhausted. This is just when everything seems to upset you. Everything seems to bother you. These are signs that your adrenal gland, that your ability, your capacity to handle things are starting to become diminished. And to just wave this off is you just got to toughen up and suck it up. And sometimes we do. Don't get me wrong there. We do. And supporting your adrenal glands is how we increase our capacity. And I'll get into how to do that in just a moment here. All right. Number 6, moving on here. Decrease in motivation. I said a moment ago that one of the hormones, testosterone, in part is, so you have a hormone called DHEA, which is made in your adrenal glands, and that signals your brain to make more testosterone. If we do not have a fair amount of DHEA, which is the most abundant hormone in the human body, it is the fountain of youth. If we do not have enough of it, we then have the second tier, a difficulty making the second tier, which is testosterone. And testosterone is the hormone of motivation for both men and women. So if we're starting to lose motivation, it's partially because of our inability to adapt to stress. And now our stress hormones are starting to steal our sex hormones. When I hear people say that they have hormone imbalances as doctors, so if doctors out there listening, practitioners listen to this list is for you and your patients as well. When we hear about or people wondering if they have hormone imbalance, we should immediately be thinking, yes, they could have hormone imbalances. And is it a derivative of having a adrenal imbalance, meaning things like cortisol is dysfunctional, it's not being produced? Your body absolutely believes that your stress hormones are way more important than your sex hormones. And it's not uncommon that your body will do something what we call a progesterone steal or a sex hormone steal, where if your body believes that you are running out of your cortisol, your stress hormone, your ability to run from a bear, your ability to keep yourself alive, it will start to steal your sex hormones. And I see this all the time in just about everyone's practice, or not everyone's practice, but I see it all the time where it's not even a consideration. Someone's been under stress for years. They've gone through a divorce and all of these different stressors, physical, mental, chemical, emotional, whatever they may be. And then they test their hormones and they see that they're low, especially women. They see things like progesterone being low. And then immediately, what do? Say, oh, we need more progesterone, without asking the question, what's the root cause here? Is the root cause the fact that you've been under stress for long periods of time, and as a result of it, your cortisol has been depleted, so your body needed to steal your sex hormones? And again, that is why even when people go on hormones, sometimes they still have these, the hormone levels may go up and they may see some symptoms start to diminish and improve, yet overall the ability to handle stress does not get better. All right, number 7, I think we're on here. You bruise easily and or you bleed easily when you floss your teeth. So those are 2 signs, a little bit different here. The bruising easy, this is going to go into the next one as well. So if you bruise easy, one of the simple reasons for that is you don't have enough vitamin C in your body. So your adrenal glands, if you want to think of them as your stress glands, hold about 50% of all the body's vitamin C. So when you're under stress, your body, whether it's being immune stress, your body's being, it's fighting off something from your immune system, you have bacteria, virus, your body uses vitamin C, and about 50% of that is stored in your adrenal glands. So if that vitamin C is depleted, that vitamin C is the same thing that your body uses to build up and protect the capillaries, to build up the connective tissue. So if you're bruising easily, one of the first clinical signs we look at is go, hey, do you know where you got these bruises? And you go, no, I don't know. I just bump into things. And every time I bump into something, I bruise easy. That's usually a deficiency in vitamin C, often as a result of having too much stress, meaning that your adrenals are now diminished and they're essentially tired. The next one, very similar to that, which is that one I just spoke about, bruising easy and gums bleeding. The next one is becomes more and more difficult to recover from your workouts. So what that means is this: you're motivated, like you want to go, or you're figuring out how to get up out of bed and you're going to exercise anyway, even though you don't feel good. Because that's all you hear people say is, listen, the best answer is just go to the gym. And I am in that camp. I believe that oftentimes a good exercise is often the medicine for everything, is take a little action. And there are times that when you go work out, you actually feel like you're getting worse. You feel like your body's breaking down more. The more you work out, the worse it gets. If that's the scenario, that's when we have to pump the brakes a little bit. That might be the one that's probably violated the most, which is in a weird way good, because at least it was a step of action versus inaction. But listen closely. If you are exercising and you find out that the more you work out, the harder it is on your body, absolutely pay attention to diet and recovery and sleep and everything. But there's a very good chance that your adrenal glands are not keeping up with your stress. So remember, when we work out, we break down connective tissue. It takes a tremendous amount of vitamin C to heal up that connective tissue. It takes a tremendous amount of other hormones to recover from that. Is it a stressful situation? It absolutely is. We are intentionally put our body under stress, breaking down tissues. That's the hormetic response for the body, but it is intentional stress there. So that one right there, hard to recover. If that's you, it is time probably to start to support your adrenals, which we'll get into in just a moment here. The next one is, I could have put this one at number 1. I don't know if these are actually in sequential order of importance, but rather just thinking of all of these guys. And if you start to go through here and you have 2 of them, 3 of them, 4 of them, 5 of them, you absolutely want to pay attention to supporting your adrenal glands. Because listen, if you don't, the bummer is you just continue on this journey of being exhausted every day. How do I know? I did it. I've been there. I didn't even know what the adrenal glands were. I went to school. I studied them. I learned them in some anatomy class, learned a little bit about them. That was it. End of school. In about 10, 15, almost 15, closer to 15 years now. And I got myself run down. It was a combination of things. Things were stressed business-wise. I was making some decisions whether I was going to stay in Georgia or leave. So we had all that stuff up in the air, sell my practice, stay, all that kind of stuff. My dad was dying. There was some challenges in my life, and nothing was going away. Nothing was going to be easy. Market eventually crashed, all the above. So all these different stresses, prolonged stresses, I was exhausted, literally exhausted. I almost couldn't get out of bed. The best of me could just go to the clinic, adjust my patience, do everything I could, and then come home and just sleep during the afternoon. That's all I had. I didn't have the capacity to handle anything else. It was just too stressful. And that is a full-blown state of adrenal fatigue. I tried working out. In fact, I think I was still working out, and I was just getting injury after injury because my body just couldn't handle it, because my ability to adapt to stress wasn't there. So, all right, moving on here. So next one is weight gain around the hips. This is a tricky one, because if you are to the point where your diet hasn't changed, but you've been under tremendous amount of stress over time and you find yourself gaining weight, oftentimes this is stress weight. What do we mean by that? I mean that your body is producing a lot of cortisol. I mean, constantly pushing this cortisol because it's your stress hormone. So if you're constantly under stress, and so many people out there are living in a state of stress that it almost feels normal, that they're just wound up, their nervous system, they're stuck in sympathetic dominance. Anyways, if you're constantly calling for your adrenal glands to push cortisol into the body, the challenge is when you push cortisol into the body, that cortisol goes to the liver, and the liver immediately releases sugar into the body because it thinks it needs energy right here, right now. When it releases that sugar, then at that point, the body goes, oh, what am I going to keep doing with all this sugar? I'm just sitting here on the couch. And then your body releases insulin, it stores it into a fat cell. So the next thing you know, you have done nothing. You have done nothing different with your diet, but because of your stress, your body's metabolizing differently. And now all of a sudden you're releasing more sugar into the system than before, simply because of your stress levels. So weight gain around the hips, very common. If you're noticing that, and you got to be honest here too. You haven't changed your diet too much, but usually under stress, frankly, when we are tired, I think everyone listening to this, we are all guilty of when we're tired, we try to out-eat our fatigue. We literally go for a snack, then we get another one. But I will tell you this, if you've ever said, I'm tired, I need to eat, it's not accurate. Like we shouldn't be eating for energy in the moment. We should be metabolizing throughout the course of the day, utilizing the food, pushing it into the mitochondria, get into the Krebs cycle, producing ATP. We should never run out of energy as long as our cells are clean. All right, moving on here. So that was number 9. Number 10 is sensitive to bright lights and to loud noises. So and what I mean by this is this, that you used to be able to handle it, and now you're sensitive to them. And it might be as simple as you go outside and you just can't handle the sun today. Like it is just like you got to cover your eyes, you got to put some glasses on, you put a hat on, and it's just different for you. And this is a key sign to pick up early on, because this can go from day to day. One of the simplest ways is look what happens when you get a poor night's sleep. The next day, your eyes are going to be more sensitive to the sun. And that is because your capacity to handle stress that day is diminished because you did not recover properly. So pay close attention to that one. Try not to defy it or lie to your body. The more we can become better and better at listening to our bodies, knowing that they never lie to us, that they're always telling us the truth, and that your body is always on your side. And the more we can tune into and really start to understand what our bodies are trying to say to us, that helps define who we are. And not only that, but it helps us elevate our overall game of health. All right. Last but not least, I know I said 10th, so that was the 10th one right there. The bright lights and sensitivities, and sensitive to loud noise as well. But I'm going to give you one more that we see a lot clinically. And that is you get a little bit of vertigo or dizziness when you change elevations, meaning this, you're lying down, you sit up real fast and you get a little lightheaded. Or let's just say that you're standing and you bend over, almost like you're doing a forward fold in yoga, or you bend down, tie your shoes, and you come up quickly and you get lightheaded. 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 15 seconds. Folks, that is indicative that your adrenal glands are downregulated, meaning they are tired. So again, early in the podcast here, I told you that your adrenal glands help regulate blood pressure. So when we bend over, let's say you're doing just a forward fold or a downward dog in yoga. When we do that, our blood pressure lowers because it's actually easier for the blood to travel to the heart. But the moment we stand up and we go full erect, in that moment, then all of a sudden the blood pressure changes, and it should rise very quickly to be able to have the capacity to handle the blood sugar changes. And our bodies are so amazing that should happen seamlessly. In the event that it's not, and you get dizzy, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, whatever, 15 seconds. I'm not talking about the entire rooms, but I'm saying that lightheadedness you get for a moment, That right there is a sign that your adrenal glands are tired and that they are lagging behind. So pay attention to those overall. So now let me dive into those symptoms. And listen, I would say this: if you have one of the symptoms, doesn't mean you have adrenal fatigue. If you listen to what I just said there and you go, man, I probably have 4, 5, 6 of those, I would tell you that you want to support your adrenal glands. I would say the majority of us want to support our adrenal glands. Why? Because we are under a constant bombard of stresses. We think it's normal. And listen, here's the fun thing. Here's and I mean this. I can say this now in my life, but I couldn't say this when I had adrenal fatigue. Bring it on. Bring it on. I look forward to the ability to have more capacity to handle more stressors. The truth is that life can be stressful. And the older we are, it does not get easier. But the beauty is most of our stressors, if we're healthy, we get to pick and choose which ones are coming. And I don't know many people who choose less. If you are healthy, you typically pick more stress. What does that mean? You do more shit. You open more businesses. You go for more. You do more. You travel more. You have more kids. You do all of those things because you're healthy and strong enough, and you actually increase more stresses in your life. Hopefully, you are healthy enough to have the capacity to do that. So the ability, if you're thinking right now, there's so much more in life that I want to be able to do, but I'm too tired to do it. Increase your capacity. How are you going to increase your capacity? Support your adrenal glands. So a couple of things. If you want to test it, you don't need to test it. If you check off 4, 5, 6 of those symptoms right there that I just talked about, then you're going to support, and I'll give you a protocol, and you, of course, can just reach out to us, and we'd be happy to go deeper if need be. There is a test. I'll make sure it's in the show notes. It's a saliva test, an at-home saliva test. We can send one out to you. You test it. We will find out if your body is producing too much or too little cortisol, and then also if it's regulated, meaning is it producing the cortisol at the right time of day? I'm going to give you 2 more symptoms here that are very important. One would be, just one more. If you get what we called wired and tired, this is what we consider phase 2 of adrenal dysfunction, meaning that at the end of the night, it's 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, when you should be going down, 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 ready for bed, you get a second wind, folks. That is adrenal dysfunction. That is a dysregulation in how your hypothalamus gland talks to your adrenal glands, and it's bumping up your cortisol. When it should be low, it's going high. And a lot of people think, wow, this is fantastic. I'm going to read more. I'm going to get on my phone more. I'm going to do more work. And then all of a sudden you deplete your sleep and you wake up being exhausted again the next day. You drag during the day and get the second wind at night. I could almost put that back at the top of this list. Now that I'm saying this, I probably should. If that is you, that is definitely an adrenal dysfunction situation, and you're going to want to regulate that before that guy catches up to you. All right, with that being said, so we'll make sure they're in the show notes. If you're interested in testing, literally, we can just send it out to you wherever you are. We can mail that out. We get the results. Usually takes about 10 days once you've completed it. There's instructions there, but you'll basically spit in these little vials all in one day, 4 or 5 in one day. Send those out. We'll get the results in about 10 days, and we can sit down and review those with you. The supplements that I would suggest here, I'm going to give you 3. You take these until all these things go away, and some of them you might need to just continue on. Like I support my adrenals on a regular basis. First thing we're going to do, a product many people have never heard of this name before. It's called Adrenal. Adrenal is probably the single best support for your adrenal glands that I know that's on the market. It is supporting both all the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients that it needs, and it also has some desiccated materials from adrenal glands to actually support if the gland is actually beat down, broken, it's not producing cortisol. Adrenal is by far probably the single best supplement out there for supporting the adrenal glands on a day-to-day basis. Now, with that being said, there are some incredible herbs that you can use. My favorites are things like echinacea for your immune system, ashwagandha for both high cortisol in the morning, which is great, and regulating your emotions and your cortisol through the course of the day. Rumania is an incredible herb that helps support if the gland itself has become dysfunctional, meaning you can't produce cortisol. And that's where we go into those hormone steals. Rumania is absolutely phenomenal. Licorice root is another really good one. With all that being said, we have what's called an adrenal tonic with all 4 of those herbs in it. And I'll make sure that's in the link below. Then last but not least, if you're in the category where literally you're getting 8 hours of sleep, you're getting a good night's sleep, whatever that is for you, you're waking up tired, folks, that's a problem. And most likely, almost a guarantee that that means you have an adrenal issue. You may have more issues than that. I would consider at that point sitting down with someone like myself or a functional medicine provider who's familiar with how to support people that have adrenal dysfunction or have at least been down that road. It is not complicated, folks. Although you want to make sure that you're kind of doing it properly so you don't fall short, because if you don't support your adrenals and they need support, you're going to be running uphill for a long period of time. All right. With that being said, the last but not least, I don't think I mentioned this one yet, is something called adrenal desiccated. That's the one that's going to be the fastest acting. That is going to give you that elevation, that rise pretty quick. And it's literally supporting the adrenal material of the gland itself. So the gland, if it's been beat up a little bit, it's been overworked, it's inflamed, that will help that. So it's one of the fastest acting supplements that we have for adrenal dysfunction. So the adrenal desiccated, Drenamine, and adrenal tonic. All right. With that being said, folks, keep doing your thing. Keep sharing out. Hope you enjoyed another episode of this Health Made Simple show. Keep doing your thing. When I say share it out, something's working, which is great. More and more people are tuning in. More and more people are participating in it. Everything that you do, meaning your likes, your shares, that's how more people are able to find this podcast. We're going to continue to do our best to make things simple for you. That's the goal. Remember, our bodies are designed to be healthy. They are helping us be healthy on a regular basis. It's not complicated. It is actually simple. I didn't say easy. It is simple to be healthy. And all we need to know is what actions we got to take next. All right. With that being said, keep doing the thing. Make sure you're taking deliberate action for your mind, body, overall health. Y'all be awesome.